into the 420, damn it!
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak. And politicians.
Everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.ca as well as at our sister station, 420radio.ca. During our introduction music, the Killing Time Band says that more of us need to speak up, and we're here to help them with that and you to achieve that goal. Tonight, my joint host is Alicia Yashcheshen, and she has brought you a guest that is a patient and is somebody who advocates for its medical use of cannabis. But first, Alicia and I are going to talk some news, aren't we, Alicia?
Of course.
Of course. And what news have we got today? We had some big government announcement yesterday, didn't we?
Oh, yes.
Did you happen to listen to it?
No, I haven't had a chance, actually. Have you listened to it?
What was that?
No, I haven't listened to it. Have you had a chance to
No, I haven't. I've been too busy moving to do much of anything.
That's right. How's
That's
that?
right. Well, hey, I got some boxes into the house and got some unpacked and got lots more to do still. So, but yeah, it's all right. It's all right. You still keep an eye on things, a little bit here and there. But I see they made some changes with their legalization. They've they've made things such as they're talking about products that people might be able to sell as instead of cigarettes in a package, joints. Could you imagine buying pre-rolled joints?
Oh, I love pre-roll joints right now. There's a company that I'm working with. I'm just in love with. Yeah, I love pre-roll joints. And especially 1 gram specific joints. That's the perfect dose. Those pre-roll joints. I tell you, they came right from heaven. So, yeah.
Yes, pre-roll joints. They're going to allow that no more than 1 gram per joint, though. So you won't be able to buy a cannon, but you'll be able to buy a joint, though.
Well, but 1 gram seems to be the perfect joint. Seriously, whoever dreams one up is, brilliant. But because at home, I don't know if you would necessarily divvy up exactly 1 gram. I don't know. Maybe you do. Do you?
Well, I have. It just happens I have weighed my joints in the past, and they're about 3/4 of a gram.
Oh.
So, and you got to think, what's a cigarette weigh?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't smoke tobacco, so I don't know.
That is a really good question. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it would be interesting to see if they're about 1 gram or even a little bit more. Now they're also putting in a regulation that edible cannabis, such as capsules and that, no more than 10 milligrams of THC per dose or per capsule. So they're going to limit the strength of edibles.
Oh.
Yeah. I see also cannabis oil is going to be restricted to 30 milligrams as well.
But at the end of the day, how are you quantifying those 30 grams? Because, for instance, no 2 cannabis plants are ever the same. No 2 batches of coconut oil infused with cannabis is ever the same. So I'm just wondering, how do you quantify these mgs of THC?
I don't know. Are they putting in arbitrary-based numbers that have no proof on anything?
Well, that's what I think. I think there's no merit to the 050 mgs of THC or 10 mgs. Like, I don't think that that's even possible. It's beyond our capacity to be able to dictate that. Just like in chemical form, I guess they're able to do that scientifically. But with THC, just because we can't create a measurement system, like, I don't understand how some edibles, you know, how they're like, oh, they're 10 mgs. Well, that's like 10 mgs is like nothing. Like, for a person like me who's using it for pain, I use probably like 500 mgs. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, and
deception when it comes to like,
yeah,
mgs,
and when I make my own products at home, I'm not measuring them. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe measuring the quantity of weed that you're using, perhaps. But other than that, how do you quantify these numbers in terms of THC? I don't see it, and I think that it's like an avenue for fraud. Like,
you got to know how much THC you're starting with in the beginning, not something that you think is what the product has, but something that you actually know what it has. So you'd have to have it tested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, down the road we'll figure it out. But at this point, to put such arbitrary numbers upon things that we don't even understand is just like, where's the donkey in the room? You know.
Now, I also see here part of this. They talk about labeling and packaging, and they say that the packaging will also have to contain. I see we're getting a little message there. Tobacco end of it all. I'll get back to that in a second. But it says here that they're also going to have to contain a health warning similar to those on tobacco products. So what is it? It's going to say, warning, this may improve your health?
Yeah.
Or warning, this may cause some people to feel better, or a sudden surge of food may be required. What's that?
I said, warning, protect the fridge after you ingest. Come on now. Like, and that again relates to the fear-mongering and comparing us to tobacco. We're nothing like tobacco just because we're a plant. And I think tobacco inherently isn't evil. It's the way in which we chemicalized it. It makes it evil or unhealthy, if you will.
Oh, the chemicals that they put in tobacco is just unreal. I
know for sure. So
hopefully they wouldn't add that type. Hopefully they wouldn't add those things to cannabis joints.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if you gave government a monopoly over cannabis like they have over tobacco, they would screw it up, and they would be spraying paper that mimics tobacco, and people smoke paper that's, you know, chemical filled, and it has no, like, I would really wonder the quantity of actual tobacco in a cigarette. You know, like, and that's perfectly legal, which is perfectly harmful. It's just like, what is it? What do we value as a society? And that's just like disturbing. Like, moralistically, that's disturbing.
Yes. Now, just to update you on the cigarette, it looks like a cigarette weighs 1 gram according to the message I got. Yes. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. At least, and they're also going to. And the one thing that's nice about this is they're going to allow some craft cannabis to be involved in it as well.
Oh.
Yeah, that's part of it. There's something I haven't got it all as far as they have to sell to certain people or certain places, but they are going to allow craft cannabis to produce and feed into the system, so that obviously, like, there's not going to be enough. If they can't supply enough for the patients, how can they supply enough for a country, right?
Oh, I know, and it's BS. But the thing is now they're saying that they're going to allow certain people who have criminal records to be able to grow within the industry. No, I think that anyone who wants to participate, like, a criminal record was designed to keep these people down and marginalize and suppress and oppress them. So I think that they should get their stuff, like, wiped.
Well,
they're able. Like, the best marijuana growers are probably sitting in jail. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. The most artistic ones who know how to grow cannabis as a craft, as a like inherently good, gifted like person who knows what they're doing is probably they're probably sitting in jail because they.
I can't disagree with you. I'm sure there's plenty of them. Talking about jail, and just get through this quickly. In the last time we were on, We had mentioned about Chris Enns down in Nova Scotia. He was had been arrested during the program. I see the charges that he was facing in court have been dropped.
Oh,
The Crown has withdrawn them. That's for raids at a dispensary back in 2013, 2014, and 2015. The Crown has dropped the charges against him, and I guess they must have agreed with him because he said he wasn't going to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
They wanted him to take. They offered him a plea deal, and he refused it and said he was going to take it all the way to the top courts for a constitutional challenge. And then the next thing you know, they turned around and dropped his charges.
That seems to be the argument of the day, is that if you threaten a charter challenge, that they'll back down because they know that they'll lose, right?
Yeah, so why? Yeah, why even offer a plea deal if you know that's sad.
Why even raid in the first place? You said that he had free raid. Why even go on the premises? Why even waste your time? Go after the meth dealers, the people who are making and manufacturing fentanyl in their garages and basements and making all kinds of weird hooky drugs with these pill presses. Maybe you should put your resources into that.
Yeah, it sounds like an idea. Maybe chase down a drug that kills people.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to our guests. So, at this time, I would like to welcome our guest, who I said is a patient and someone who advocates its medical use. I don't know what that noise is, but I'd like to welcome CB Don to the Pace Radio Show. Hi, CB. How are you doing?
I'm really good. How are you, Al?
Not bad. I need to get a little bit of rest from the moving, but I'm doing all right. And yourself?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm in Victoria.
Yep.
And I'm really enjoying, the weather here. It's quite a bit different than Calgary.
Yeah, don't they have snow? They have snow in Calgary?
I think so. I know my friend told me it was really hot out there this morning. So.
Maybe I got a Chinook.
Yeah, those drastic weather changes. I don't miss those.
No, I don't imagine. Okay, CB, what we basically do here is I will hand the reins over to Alicia to get the questioning going, and I'll chime in as we go along.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, Alicia, over to you.
Awesome. Sounds
Hi,
good.
Alicia.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
That's good. I'm good. So I guess for me, what I like to do is take me back to your first experience with cannabis. I want to know how you got here. But first,
wow, what a good question.
That's the first step.
Well, I remember when I met you, but that was only about 8 years ago, or 3, 4, 6 years ago. I can't remember. We were at the Harvest Cup.
Yep.
That was a good time. Neil Magnuson was doing his tour across Canada. The Freedom Tour. Yay, Neil.
Yay, Neil.
For sure. And so you used
So my first time.
No, that was your first cannabis event?
No. I was going to go back to that. I just wanted to mention that about us. Sorry. My first time, actually, it was so funny. I was just thinking about this the other day, and it was a really good friend of mine back in probably 1978, I don't know, something like that. I was about 13 when I first had my first hit on a joint, and I remember just we were out at Ghost Lake, just outside of Calgary, Alberta. My girlfriend had a cabin out there. Her parents had a cabin, and I couldn't wait to, get away from my parents. And so, we started smoking a joint, and immediately we both broke out laughing our heads off, and had a lot of fun. And they were all musicians, so we always got to sit around and listen to some great music. So that was my first experience, 13 years old.
Awesome. And so it was a good experience for you then. You enjoyed it?
Oh, very much. Yeah, I never stopped using it after that. Until but that's the next question, so I won't start that until I let you.
Yes.
Okay.
If you want to know
so
the
then
next part.
Okay, so you were a recreational user. That's how you came. So did you drink alcohol when you were like 13? When you first started like using cannabis?
You know what's interesting again? My girlfriend had called me last week after me thinking about our first experience, and I have not heard from her since we were 18. So we start reminiscing about how the sequence of events led up to us, having a joint. And she had older brothers and sisters, so that was, easy. But we had recalled an experience where our sisters took us out to, I don't know if she was there that night, but she remembers because her sister was there, and we went out to the Buffalo Jump just outside of Alberta, out of Calgary. I can't remember the name of it. But that was my first experience actually abusing alcohol. I think I had actually had lots of punch throughout the years with my father's real estate parties he used to hold. But, that was the first experience of getting so drunk, as a kid that it kind of scared me actually. But yeah.
And so I was just going to say, would you agree that, again, is it the gateway drug theory? Is it not normal in your world then? How people say that, technically after you used cannabis, you should have had this downward spiral, right? Where it seems though with the alcohol, that was the case.
Well, certainly. I mean, I had gotten warnings from my parents about booze. We didn't talk much about marijuana. It wasn't really a subject that came up in our house very much. My parents were really against alcohol, and so I was more concerned about abusing alcohol than I ever was about using marijuana. I mean, marijuana to them was an illegal substance. So, sex and illegal substances, that wasn't the topic of conversation in the Christian households back in the 60s and 70s.
No, they weren't.
So, no.
So I guess, were you akin to seeing reefer madness throughout your upbringing, within your governmental exposures, I guess, in the media and stuff?
Well, back in the 70s, it was kind of a cool thing to do. I mean, even though our parents detested it, they didn't seem to be too shocked as much as if you came home and said, I just took a hit of acid, or, if you mention the mere word of any illicit drugs, I think my parents knew what cocaine was back then. They didn't know what MDA was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from a recreational standpoint, when did cannabis become medical for you?
Well, that's a really good question. So let's move up a few years. So all through growing up and, actually trying some other drugs and then realizing that I'd better not stay anywhere near those kind of drugs. And I always used hash because I couldn't smoke a joint with my friends. I would get super depressed. And my mind just never went to nice places for me. So it was all about sativa for me. And just that, Avery, it's boiling. Yeah. And so I strictly used hash. I mean, back then the hash was so incredible, and it did exactly what I needed it to do. And so when I'd go to work or I'd be in school, I'd come home at night, and I would have, a pipe that hit a hash or do the knives on the stove or whatever. And then that was good. That's all I needed. And it was great up until I was working really hard in real estate and trying to make a name for myself. And, urgings from society was maybe I should stop using the pipe, and smoking hash. And so I decided that, yes, okay, I could possibly, try to do that. And what was going to be my help along the way? I didn't smoke cigarettes or anything. So, beer was the only substance of choice. And I could remember distinctly, I was around 26 years old. It was in the 80s, and I wished I would have been more clear-headed, but I was just in the midst of changing. My dad had gotten cancer, and I was in Toronto working in real estate, and I had a company that I was kind of part owner with another few people. And so, I had a lot going on my plate, and it was maybe a bad time to think I should try to fit in with society, because that was the biggest mistake. I could have never, ever made a bigger mistake than quitting smoking that hash, because immediately my body turned toxic and went spiraling downhill after that. So I was accepted in society way more, but I didn't feel very good. So, yeah.
So now you're a big advocate of CBD, or you have some, I guess, perspectives on CBD. Did you want to share those with us, or how does that?
Well, back in 2009, sorry?
No, I was just saying, how did that come into the picture? Like the whole
yeah.
Okay.
Well, so move up to like in the early 2000 area, like 1991, let's say. That's better. I started going to a naturopathic doctor, and she told me that, you have to stop using these muscle relaxants. And I was like, well, I had a really sore back. And she's like, yeah, but your liver is getting compromised from these drugs, and you can't use them like that. And I said, well, the doctor's telling me that it's important for me to do that so I can keep working at the kind of work I do, which was horticulture. And so basically, I was looking after really large atriums and using ladders and hoses and stuff like that, right? So I said to her, well, and she goes, and do you drink? And I said, well, I play volleyball, so we have a pint of beer once a week or so. And she goes, well, your liver is getting very compromised with that. So I basically, from the time I was in my late 20s till even now, I've always kept the same kind of food habits that she taught me back then. In 2009 to 2010, then I started testing out the markets, or testing out what kind of not CBD, I didn't know anything about that. It was basically THC. And so I started using that for body pain, because I'd been suffering from something the doctors they were never able to zero in on, but they said somewhere between an arthritic body or something, along that kind of line. And so I just thought, well, arthritis, all those things are always exacerbated by acidic conditions, right?
Okay. And when you found
right.
that cannabis helped that condition?
Well, interestingly enough, when I started using it, I was using it because I felt like I didn't have a choice when it came to dealing with body pain. And, I was very athletic and spent a lot of time swimming and running, which I was having difficulty performing the running part. And so, I just had to kind of start looking at reformulating my own hormonal balances and, what I was doing as far as making sure my food intake was conducive to the alkaline levels in my body, what my sugar levels were, my salt levels. So, I always had for years someone test those things out so that, we could get a pretty good estimate of what's going on in my body and keep me pretty healthy. But when this kind of body pain comes on, it affects your nerves, and it's very difficult because once that pain is in your body, thinking becomes a real chore. And I know, Alicia, I know some of your health history, and I know you probably know this quite well. And when you're affected mentally, it's very hard to perform. And when you're raising children, or when you're a single parent and you're trying to, make ends meet and stuff, it can be, very, very difficult. So yeah, the CBD came later. I didn't really actually know that CBD even was as important as I kind of outlined it in my own thoughts, but after doing some research on it, I have found the value in the CBD, and I think it's a good counterpart to THC. But I'm still doing a lot of research myself on both.
That's awesome. And so you talk about this body pain, and so is it kind of like the fibromyalgia that you kind of experience, or like what's up with that? Like, have they ever not been able to figure it out, or?
Yeah, they kind of zeroed more in on arthritis. I mean, they zeroed out fibromyalgia about 2 years, 4 years into it. Like, honestly, it took them a long time to really diagnose what was going on, and that's not uncommon, as a matter of fact. My own father, years ago, was trying to get diagnosed. He had rheumatoid arthritis, and the doctors here 3 years, and finally he flew down to Mexicali, Mexico, and he got diagnosed within about a day or so, and they actually continued for years sending him medication from Mexicali that helped him with his arthritis. So, but he got cancer and died of cancer. So I always asked him, do you ever think that maybe, who knows what was in that pills from Mexicali, Dad? So.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing with traveling abroad and having these, treatments. You just never know, right?
Well, he did get them tested, and all his concern was the amount of steroids that are usually drugs in Canada and the United States weren't quite as high. In fact, very, very low. So that's what made him feel confident about it. Anyway, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, you do a lot of cannabis tourism. And so maybe you'd like to tell us about that, because right now you're in Victoria and you're seeing the sites and going to the cannabis places. And do you want to maybe elaborate on that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Well, since 2009, actually, my partner and myself, Craig Rohatton, he's my partner with Dabcor, we've actually always made a point of going out to as many events across Canada as we can. And starting back in 2010, we attended, I believe it was one of the first Treat Yourself medical marijuana conventions in Toronto at the Metro.
Yes, it was 2010. 2010 was the first year.
It was so exciting, and we drove out there, and we had some of our dogs with us. So we always had quite a few dogs between the two of us. So we just kind of did the blended family thing, and yeah, we'd bring our dogs along. And so year after year, 2011 was such a great time because then we got to. Everybody was free to smoke for a couple of months. The medical marijuana wasn't illegal at that time until they came up with their new plans. But anyways, moving on, we basically kept with that program, and then we'd go off to Montreal and see what was going on in Montreal, and went as far as Newfoundland on some of our trips, but nothing was really going on too much there. But that was back then, and this is now, right? So moving forward again, Calgary's doing a lot for cannabis nowadays, more than I ever expected would happen. So it's kind of a exciting thing to see. And but during the spring last year, my partner and I, Craig, we decided to start learning more about CBD and the benefits of that, and doing a lot more research, and realizing that all of our systems are engaged with CBD, our respiratory, our immune, our digestive, nervous systems, reproductive systems. They're all involved in this balancing act. So, it's been exciting looking more into it. And just the research is out there. So.
Awesome. And so in terms of like your tourism, like what is it your favorite part? Like, do you
the traveling?
Like the traveling, really, and the smoking, obviously. But what's the best part, I guess, of going to those cannabis events and I guess meeting a lot of people, right? But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of been development over the years. I've noticed at the very beginning when I was first trying out different strains, and we were judges back in Toronto, so that was very exciting. We got to meet a lot of different people and tried to keep in contact with some over the years. I know Georgia Tunes and I have always kept in touch, and then bringing myself and Craig out to BC, we met a lot of the BC Sensible people, and I'm I call myself an ambassador for the Leaf, so I stay very neutral when it comes to politics, but I do support politics that support the Leaf. So I always like to engage with people in politics that are trying to do things for, yeah, go ahead. They're trying to do things for the progression of Canada, and hopefully, some of the governments, I know right now Ontario and such are looking at some pretty serious situations, having, the Liquor Control Board and the Gaming Commission or whatever, not Control Board, sorry, the Liquor and Gaming Commission, as a bylaw officer recently corrected me, those commissions will be taking over. And it's just sad how government officials just seem so complacent about it. And sorry, we're just kind of like here. It's probably really loud.
Yeah, I can hear something going on there. Well, hey, why don't we go for a break? We'll pay some bills, and then we'll get going on about this. You sound like you're getting a little bit into that Bill C-45 stuff. So. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll discuss that when we get back.
Take a break. Sure.
Okay. Off the break we go. Our listeners are going to hear a little bit of Rick Reimer and his song called "Respect," and then when we get back, we'll continue our conversation with our guest. CB Don, and you're listening to the Pace Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.net and .ca.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Respect makes the world go round. Respect, don't put others down. Respect, a necessity. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Respect.
Come again.
And you can't be fooled.
Respect.
It's the golden rule.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticcannabispartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Watch it. Once I'm walking down the street, wanna get a bite to eat, but I look a bit run down.
Just a bit run down.
Waiter in a restaurant looks at me, says, "What you want? We don't need no bums in town."
What am I saying?
Doesn't hear a word I say.
Hello and welcome back. Tonight on the program, I am joined by our guest, patient advocate CB Don, plus my joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen. Well, Alicia and CB, before the break, we were just starting to talk a little bit about what's going on here across the country, especially here in Ontario, where cannabis would be controlled by the LCBO. And I know it seems to be, I don't know, ladies, whether you've noticed, the East Coast seems to be more of control, keep it under lock and key. We're talking about lock and key. New Brunswick wants you to lock it up. But out west, they seem to be more open to retail situations.
Oh, hello?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get
Didn't catch that. Yeah, no problem. Okay, I don't know if you noticed, but on the East Coast, on the east side of the country, it seems to be more where, like, the LCBO, the SAQ, where it's more government controlled in the government buildings. Yet out on the West Coast, they seem to be talking a little bit more about private retailers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it seems to be a little more open to in the West End of the country versus the East End.
It's really interesting. Like, you bring that up, Al, and I'll tell you why. There's a situation going on in Victoria. I don't know exactly the situation in Vancouver. It seems, I hear more about Victoria right now. That's all. And I'm trying to, and I have been attempting to get a license in many different ways. So I started with asking for a CBD shop because the importance of CBD. So I kind of enlightened them on the endocannabinoid system, which I was mentioning earlier, that Craig and I have been going across British Columbia to every possible place we could, every shop, and talk to as many people as we could, just about the fact that, they didn't even know. Lots of people don't. Not even my doctor ever really heard that word before, and he's 72 years old.
Yeah. And then,
so
the doctors
we're
aren't
having some trouble out on the island. The mayor's not really, so I don't know what the mayor's doing. Here's the deal. So I tried to get a license, and they're telling me I have to go through all these steps, and I said to them, okay, well, it just seems that they all just went through a bunch of steps here, and then they got ousted because the whole layout of the contract was changed at the last minute, and it went from 209 meters between dispensaries to 409 meters. And then when they couldn't meet that criteria, which was changed, then they were ousted and their money wasn't refunded. And the
Oh.
response to that was only that no province in Canada refunds money when they're doing rezoning. But that wasn't the point. Of course, the point was in this instance, there is an issue because they weren't warned of that change. And when they tried to address it, they weren't, given any voice.
Yeah.
So then when I came in, and I'm sure I'm not the only one coming in to do this right now, there's many, many places for rent right now in Victoria. So the city definitely needs small business, absolutely. But then I went back again and I said, well, they said, well, no CBD products. And I said, but it comes from hemp. And they said, but that's cannabis. And I said, well, actually, the cannabis plant and the hemp plant are individual and separate plants, and they are bred for different means. So there is less THC in the hemp plant. And so that, therefore, I could go to Safeway right now and buy some hemp seeds. I can buy cream with hemp in it. And, so that's probably why we've now recognized that. No, they won't have an actual forum discussion on that at all. So, I understand, right? So I just moved towards my next application, which was 2 weeks after my last application. So this application was that I want to open a smoke shop with smoke accessories and heady glass, and also use part of the space as an education information place that does focus groups and educates people on their endocannabinoid system that doctors and nobody's ever told them about. So they're all really curious to hear this information. So they said no. And so no, they didn't say no. They sent me up to zoning, and I went up to zoning, and then the girls in zoning kind of said, oh, this shouldn't be a problem. Oh, you have to go talk to Kim and Sarah. She's in bylaw. Just go across the street, ring the doorbell, and you can talk to Kim. So I was like, wow, that sounds so simple. So I go across the street, I ring the doorbell, no one answers, it was closed. So then I came back the next day in the morning, first thing, ring the doorbell, get in, no Kim Ferris here, get a card, phone her again, keep phoning, and then go back in like a surprise visit. And then I was told, you don't come in to surprise her. She needs to phone you to make the appointment. So I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for explaining that to me. And so, I'll just sit back and wait. So that's now been 10 days ago.
Oh, my God. Why the games? That's how they do business?
This is what this is what the girls up in zoning say to me. Like, this is this big platform with a bunch of people standing around, right? And I go, so hi, and she's like, hi, and I go, yeah, remember me? And she goes, what? Are you CB Dawn? And I said, yeah, are you Debbie? And she goes, yeah. And I said, hey, Debbie. And she goes, well, I was, she was kind of surprised to see me because I figured that. Anyway, she says to me that they moved her and she's not in licensing anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, yeah, I got a better pay in a different position. I was like, yeah, okay. Well, not my first dog and pony show, but I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
So they wouldn't even let you open a store with hemp products?
I can't even sell smoking products. Like, for smoking cigarettes, and of course I put up a sign and say these are not for cannabis use if they wanted me to, but of course they didn't even I'm serious. I had a spot and everything, and the landlord was waiting to hear from me, and
wow.
So yeah,
that's Victoria.
So now, yeah. So yeah.
Wow. So what do you think of some of this legislation that's come out? As we're hearing here with the government's announcements.
Well, I just have to ask this one question to any government officials, is that, do you know that you possess an endocannabinoid system? And if you do know of that, do you know how that affects you? Right? Because,
right.
I mean, I could go on and on about the big fight that's going on. It's been going on ever since I was born, right?
Yeah.
And it's how ridiculous it is. And none of them will look you in the eyes and tell you that you're not right. None of them. But none of them will actually stand behind. Well, I shouldn't say none of them. I know there are people in that government practice or whatever that are actually. And Alicia is definitely somebody that's moving towards a lot of good, and that's just one person. So no, I do respect those kinds of positions. I just don't respect the way that they try to make me feel as a single mother that's trying to go in and start a company and make it so that my kids can grow up and take over this company. I mean, Canada was built on small businesses. My father, he built his family's life on a small business, and so that should be so integral in Canadian culture, and we're integrating people from all over the world here that know about small business. I mean, that was how their country was built, as it was on small business. So it shouldn't be too hard to kind of stay in that area, and government stay completely out of this kind of the cannabis sector for sure, and allow people to get ahead of themselves. I mean, come on, your average job doesn't pay to pay the price to live, and Victoria especially. I mean, it's an incredibly expensive city, and every year the government officials, people that work for the government, give tickets to the homeless to all come here. And so, I do realize that Lisa Health does have a big, huge job on her hands, having to deal with the crisis in the winter with many people who don't have homes. And I know she's concerned about that. I can see that, and she looks like she's got just a lot to do. And I'm sure that the delegation of the cannabis rules is perplexing to any government official, which brings me to the recent letter that Neil Magnuson wrote, and, I posted all over my website, just because that letter, it says a lot. Neil's much into the political end of it. And I'm into the health of everybody, and I think everybody's a human, and everybody that is, working towards whatever agenda, they still have an endocannabinoid system, and they're still getting old, and they're still dying. And nowadays, like 100 years ago, when we lived in much dirtier environment, of course, with way less options as respect to kinds of medicine. Just for example, antibiotics, right? So under those conditions, people were dying earlier. And now, today, we die from age-related diseases, right? So everybody's dying, but there's this big, huge fight going on over something that could not only help heal us, but make us better as a nation. And, Lisa Phelps has that opportunity. Pardon me?
It's the cure for everything, if you really wanted to look at it, if you really wanted to slice it down. Like, it is the cure for everything. But yeah,
right. And when you asked me earlier, you said, did THC, cure some of these ailments? And I didn't get a chance to answer that. But absolutely. Mm-hmm. I was at a point where I could not walk, and when I did, the shooting pains were excruciating, and it took everything for me to go and walk my dogs. And I have, at that time I had 15 dogs. So, everything just kind of went to pot, so for my body, but it's funny because, seriously, it took a long time, and it took me formulating a good diet that I can be balanced, and I can go through the hormonal changes the woman of my age will go through, and still maintain, not only just I feel very youthful physically, I think my mental attitude has been able to get out of those mental thought patterns that we so develop over our lifetime. So yes, definitely, it is an all-enhancing, all-encompassing drug with side effects. Like every drug has side effects. The only difference is the side effect might be dry mouth. It might be uncontrollable laughter.
Well, and there's just there's a place for cannabis if you really look at it in every aspect of medicine, even when it comes down to antibiotics and fighting off these bacteria and all of these different things. Like they're saying that there's these super bugs that they don't know how to kill. Well, hello, cannabis, the ingenious abilities of the cannabis plant are just not even known. Not even, not even known.
You're right.
Doing and using it so many different ways.
They're just touching on it, just basically.
Exactly.
Yes.
We are so uneducated when it comes to the true capacities of cannabis. And, I'm embarrassed to say that as a species, we don't know like one plant that could provide so many different things, like not even just medicine and food, but just, you know, like I'm preaching to the choir now, but in the same regard, like you not being able to open up a shop in Victoria because of red bureaucratic tape, is like asinine. Like why is this system even being designed if you have people who are already like refusing the regimen? Like why? Like why won't they allow you to open up a shop in Victoria?
You know, it's funny when you say that, because I remember back in the early 90s, people were saying they trusted their government. You see,
oh God.
See, I was once a Jehovah's Witness, and I used to go around from door to door. And when I went around from door to door, I asked people what they thought of their government.
Mm.
And you know what people would say? They say that they basically trusted the government. And do you know that by the end of the 90s, when I went around and asked people what they thought of their government, and into the 2000s, people's answers were quite a bit different. They started to realize that they weren't being protected like they thought they were. And the big disappointment was they seemed to start realizing that it was all a facade of protection. And that's kind of the thing that really... Yeah. So
wow.
I got to hear, when in the 60s, my mother was a Jehovah's Witness, and she used to take me from door to door, and I used to hear her when I was 4 years old asking people what they thought of what the government was going to do in years to come, because it's sure not been doing very well up till now, she'd say. And you know what they would say? Oh, they would want to slam the door in her face, but they would tell her that it was the UN that was going to save them. That was what they said in the 60s. So it's quite the funny thing. I'm definitely not in that religion cult anymore. But, yeah, it was just interesting to be able to hear people talk about that. So.
Why do you think the people changed the way they felt towards the government in the 90s versus, you know, in the 80s or the 70s? Would that be more access to information through the internet, stuff like that?
I think that's probably a huge part. I mean... When you think about it, it has to be the underlying reason, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's meant so much for everybody, you know, when it comes to education, like especially along the cannabis issue. It's been terrific in order for people to learn and share experiences and teach each other about the plant, because obviously, you know, we're not getting that from where we thought you could get it from. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, over to you, Alicia. Got 7 minutes till break time.
Okay, I'm already indulging. So when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, in terms of cannabis, what were you taught? Like, what did your family believe about cannabis? Did reefer madness ever come up as a child or youth for you, or an adult, I guess, even?
Well, you know, I don't remember ever being hassled for. I remember my mom telling me not to smoke cigarettes, and I came home smelling like cigarettes one day, and she said, "Were you smoking?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And
it was my friends. I just smell like it. That's all.
Yeah, no, I wasn't one of those kids that felt like they always had to carry on a lie, because I just thought, you know, if you can't face the truth, Mom. Anyhow, I was just maybe too honest with her, but you know, I do remember the school I was going to had more concern about acid being distributed, but you know, we all hit our cannabis use so well. I mean, you could have asked me even a few years ago, when my kids were under 18, if I smoked cannabis, and I would definitely tell you no, because that was the thing that we always said. I mean, you just never said any different, right? You never admitted your cannabis. So that's how it affected me. I mean, you know, something that was that great, I couldn't go and share with my mom, because she would be like, well, smoking is wrong.
So I don't know whether your mother's still with us now, but as a person who... No, she's not. Eh? So was she around when you started into the cannabis use as a medicinal purposes?
Well, yeah, when I started medicinally, I definitely let her know, but she was really adverse against it until I was looking after her one time, and she started getting into my chocolate bars that we actually would travel all the way to Toronto to get for my dad because he had cancer, and she would start nibbling on them, and she had suffered some severe mental and physical issues over the years, so she loved it so much that she couldn't seem to get enough of it. And then when I told her, she was so scared that her church, her congregation might get the wind of it, that as a Jehovah's Witness she was using cannabis. But at that point, so she was in her 70s, and typically when you're in your 70s you get kind of dropped off the face of the earth by the congregation anyway. So she was kind of feeling she was feeling the alienation, and maybe she was feeling a little reckless. And so, but then she started feeling really guilty after, and so it was really hard for me to get her to understand. And I didn't have as much information as I do now. I just knew that it was going to save their lives if we could try somehow. But I knew that it was a losing battle for me. I could not get enough information quick enough to keep those two, elderly, and so that their grandchildren could enjoy them in their late 90s and stuff. So, so
it's
that's a lot
too bad, because you take something like that, and they've taken it, they feel the benefits, obviously, because she's requiring more. But as soon as they find out what it is, they become worried what others would think. And and it's a chance where they could have had a improved quality of life. But it's too bad.
In fact, Al, it was so sad because my father, in his dementia, I'm just going to mention that in the end he just did not want cannabis even mentioned anymore. He was so afraid. And, that was partly dementia. I understand that. So, but before he got that bad, he even started to feel bad about the use of it because nobody was helping him continue using it. It was almost like everybody just wanted him dead instead of, trying to say, hey, you can stay well. He was such a strong man. I mean, he should have been healthy and strong into his 90s, just like an ox, but free radicals are believed to be the reason for aging, and so I'll just leave that right there.
Yes, they are taking over our bodies, aren't they?
Well, and cannabis has a lot to say in that, and I know Alicia was just mentioning something about the benefits we don't even know. We're just touching on the surface of it. The pro-anti-inflammatory biochemistry and the anti-inflammatory biochemistries in our body are all held in check with this balance. And the endocannabinoid systems participate in turning down these anti-inflammatory responses. So that's a huge job that cannabinoids have. And it holds a tremendous amount of significance to us today because the fundamental ideological components are believed to be free radicals in aging. So
our bodies need. There was a movie, "What If Cannabis Cures Cancer" by Lynn Richmond, and in there, they talk about all the free radicals today. Everything from processed food to pollution and everything that we're taking into our bodies, and it's been overrun, and we're further and further away from when we used to be able to have access to cannabis, because at one time it was a medication. And now, it's less in our body and we become deficient.
And what the worst, the thing is, the more that, more advocates, there's more activists that are coming around and starting to rise up and give us a voice to be strong in Canada. It seems like the more and the more the corporate end, the government, is trying to kibosh everything. And I know that the lobbyists and stuff go in with their, Molson Canadian and Coors and all those, they're all like, okay, we got to put cannabis in booze now because we're going to lose out on that market.
Yeah.
So, but listen, like back in the 80s, they would have kept trying to make us believe that they were there for our best interests and believe that, they're trying to make sure that we're a healthy society, but not too many people that I know to this day that have gone through their 20s, 30s, and 40s eating the stuff in Safeway or in Save On Foods in the middle aisles has a good gastrointestinal tract. They don't, most people I know, is what I'm trying to say, suffer from either migraine headaches, gastrointestinal disorders, or some sort of kidney issues, and then you got herniated disc problems because your organs start to inflame, and then they push on very subtle body tissues, can create huge imbalances and inflammation, of course, and that's what the key is.
Yeah. I'm a guy who's dealing with a bowel issue. I have Crohn's disease. So, all right, ladies, it's time to go for another break. And we're going to hear a little bit more of Rick Reimer's song, Respect. And then Alicia and I, as I mentioned earlier, will continue our discussion with CB Don. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.net and .ca. See you in 5.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Respect.
Yeah, man. Come again.
I don't want obedience. I don't want to build a fence. This is not about control.
No control, yeah.
This is just a simple thing. Every man can be a king. No man has a bigger soul.
Equality.
So even if you die of thirst, pass around the bottle first. Share it with your fellow man.
Pass the Dutchie, man.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
When you see a stranger's face, show that we are all one race. Show some warm instead of cold. You know what Bob Marley said, you must share your daily bread. Life is worth much more than gold. You don't have to do too much, give a smile.
We are back, and if you miss our live shows, you can always catch the podcasts at Mixcloud, YouTube, and other social media such as iTunes as well. Today on the program, we are featured the music of the lawyer Rick Reimer and a song Respect. Rick has a few good cannabis songs, so I suggest that you look them up online. Today on the show, we have our guests, CB Don, and my joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen. Well, Alicia, we're into the last segment.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
Time always flies, you know. Like when we get on here, it just ends up being a conversation between the three of us, and you know, sometimes four. And one thing leads to another, and the next thing you know, it's all over and done with.
Yeah. Very
yeah.
Cool.
Okay, Alicia, I'm going to let you get this last segment rolling with the questions.
All right, sounds good. So now I'm real curious as to what's happening in terms of your shop. Like, are you going to proceed with it in Victoria, or do you have other plans to relocate it? What's your thinking in terms of that?
Wow, all these good questions, so loaded. Well, you know, I'm the kind of person that just kind of goes where I feel like I'm going to make the biggest impact. And for some reason, I'm here, and I always tell my sons it's just the way the wind blew. So once I start something, though, I have a really hard time letting it go. So I don't think I'll be backing down too quick. I mean, you know, there's no way that a person like me shouldn't be able to run a shop, you see?
Oh, for sure.
Correct.
I was born and raised in Canada, right? So I was born and raised to believe that I could do anything I want. That's what my parents kept telling me. They said it on Sesame Street.
Yeah. I do the radio show from the front window of a business called Canada Days in downtown Campbellford. And they stay open Wednesday night so I can do the show live here. And I'll tell you, they waited 10 months before they finally got the clearance in order to be able to open a business here in town.
Whoa.
Yeah, that had to do with, you know, dealing with the unit, like the store itself, where he wanted to go into. They just kept making the guy do more and more to the building. You know, finding small things in order to slow things down, hoping that he would go somewhere else. You know, hopefully that's not what they're doing.
It's a sad situation, you know, because I remember in the 60s they were fighting over, you know, Quebec and all that. The provinces were, you know, in disagreement. And I just thought, wow, we're supposed to be one country. What the heck is going on? I was like 4, wondering, why is there fighting going on in Quebec? Like it was just so mind-boggling that this could even transpire at that age.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we turn on the TV and there's the war going on in Vietnam, and you're like, you know, trying to question that. And so, you know, bring us up to our own country and our government, and, you know, this nationalism and all this is just a cover for, you know, the corporate greed that exists out there. And so I don't have a part in it myself. I don't believe that any of these governments are ever going to bring any peace and tranquility. And also not just that, but, you know, encourage the love that goes on with each other. And that has to be on such a global scale, you know, because we're showing on CNN and all these farce shows that things are really bad and people just hate each other and everyone wants to kill each other and wear black turbans or whatever. I don't know. Whatever it is, I really don't care about all of that. What I really care about is that we, as humans, love to come together and heal one another. It seems to be our nature. So I try to, that's my main focus, being here on this earth for whatever time left I have, and just focusing on that. And it helps me to get through the day, knowing that sometimes somebody will come to me and they'll say, you know what, there's one thing that you said that changed my life in so many ways. And you just feel like that's all you need, right? And if I keep hearing that, I don't get paid for what I'm doing. And, if I have to hang in here for however long I have to hang in, I think that I'm going to be a great asset to the city of Victoria. And I would only benefit the consumerism here that is so prevalent across all the world that everybody wants in the government to see happen, so that we're, you want to be a prosperous country. I understand that. I understand economics. But it can't be before the people, because the people are, you're building the country on the backs of these people. So why not make sure that their health care and their health is tight, and they're looked after, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And that whoever does that, whoever succeeds in that mindset and is able to bring the masses together on that, is going to be the one that will lead the world in cannabis revolution. And what we could do then as a country, as a nation, as an earth.
I think so. I think that cannabis has that potential to kind of kick politics out in a sense and bring this kind of spiritual revolution, if you will, and this consciousness of government equals slavery. We pay all of these taxes and we're abused in terms of our human rights on so many levels, and we just don't even realize it. And it's just we're these.
And then we keep voting them back in again, and
Yeah, exactly. And it's what is it going to take for people to wake up and realize that we allow a government? They don't. You know what I mean? We do. So it's
well, there's more of us than there are of them.
Exactly. And it's things like cannabis. It's cannabis prohibition, when people look back in history, will be known as one of those atrocities that give your head a shake. You know what I mean? Just the things that they do to people in terms of prohibition. Look at you, for instance. You're trying to be an entrepreneur and you're getting the door slammed in your face because you want to bring health to a community. I'm sure that you've heard the travesties that have happened with Ashley in Victoria. And I'm glad that she has someone now to, back her up and say, look, this is illegitimate business practice. I deserve to be here just as much as Starbucks, just as much as Domino's.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ashley was born and raised here, as a matter of fact. And so, she's an integral part in the community for sure. I mean, Victoria doesn't want to erase their history, the people that have been here for so long, right? Her family and on and on. But
I just feel there's this unaccepting in Victoria by the city, and it's what? Where's this snobbery coming from that is blocking this kind of wealth in a sense? Because when you create entrepreneurship, you create wealth. In that, you create employment for other people. You're adding to the economy, and to foo-foo that, holy, what are you, the richest place on earth that you can just turn your back on good money?
Yeah, and you don't want to create that kind of name for Victoria because, a lot of people from the U.S. come and spend their money here, right? So, they want to come and get CBD products. They don't have them, and especially I know people right across in Seattle and all that surrounding this area that just will fly over here in a second if they think they can get their hands on some, really good CBD. So that benefits everybody that lives here. And as a matter of fact, just one little point is that I went up and down the street to talk to some of the people in the area that I wanted to get my license, and I asked them, what they thought of CBD after explaining to them about their endocannabinoid system, and they were just shocked and amused. Like they wanted to hear more. Their smiles come up on people's faces because they seem to think that they might have heard it, but they're just not sure. And so when they get more information about their body's imbalances, and that the doctors that have been doing the research are saying that we're suffering from an imbalance, it just like a light or a bell goes off in their heads, and they realize that just makes so much sense. That it just makes so much sense to me, And these people are not anywhere near as educated as myself, which I'm still not as educated as, say, for instance, the scientist I spoke to a couple of weeks ago. But he wasn't educated in the same area as I was. Here in Victoria, and he, I said to him, well, have you ever had any health issues? And he said, well, I had some herniated discs in my back a few years back, and he was a very athletic person, and I said to him, so how did you handle that? And he said, oh, well, I would never use any opiates. Because this is what he does as a scientist. He tests those kinds of drugs. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, I would never take that risk with my own body. And I said, so what did you use? And he said, well, he was advised that CBD would probably be a good thing. And so he said he used some CBD. And he was standing in front of me, and he had like a windsurfer in his garage or whatever. So I figured that, he was probably still, looked like he was doing his athletics, and he didn't look in too much pain. So, I wasn't there to conduct that type of business, but we did get into it a little, as I always do. And he said to me, I said, well, would you ever take chemo if you got cancer? And he said, absolutely. Absolutely, I would. And I said, really? Because I've talked to many doctors and scientists that say they would absolutely not take it. And he goes, oh, those must have been the GPs. Were they GPs?
Oh, my God.
I know. So that kind of snobbery is definitely out there. And, I got chased off of the forum with Wim Hof. He was, not on the forum, but, with some people, and they just did not want to hear about your endocannabinoid system. They were so mad at me for even mentioning it. That was in the UK. Yeah.
Oh, well, and that's why I say that, like, people will look back and say that this is like the cannabis prohibition is the most, like, one of the most atrocious human rights violations, because each and every single one of us, including our dogs and cats, have a cannabinoidal system that occurs in our brain. Every single one of us.
Mammals, yeah. Yeah, all mammals. So
they probably get upset. They probably get upset at you when you tell them that our brains produce their own cannabis.
Well, but you know what? I have a feeling that animals like that don't have access to cannabis, they'll find plants within their ecosystem to restore cannabinoids when they need them. Like, cannabis is just one source. It's an abundant source, but there's other sources that I think that mammals access. They must. So it's very, it's very awesome that you're kind of putting like yourself forward there and saying, like, look, like CBD, not even marijuana, like that's pretty brave in itself. Like, to say, like, look, like CBD is the cat's ass here, and we need to be investigating it. And a place like Victoria should be. If anywhere, they should.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of women my age here, and every time I get a chance to talk to one of them, we talk about cannabinoids. And, some, like, I'll be sitting in the nail parlor, and ladies coming in of all ages, and they are all smiles. And they are all wanting to hear my story here in Victoria. And these are Oak Bay, the ladies from all over those areas, which are considered to be, upper middle class or whatever. And, but no, they're smiling and really enjoying the conversation to hear that, healing can be done. And in the possibility of some Christian ladies that don't want to, announce it to their pastors or their priests right away, can feel more confident using a CBD approach in the beginning. I mean, I certainly do advocate for THC because it's what helped me get through those pain times where I couldn't think and I still had to, look after my business and my children. So I would never say not to venture into THC, but for people that are a little nervous about it because of the government prohibition making them feel like they're criminals if they try to use it, and then the guilt that comes with that, it can be, but I always say to them that the properties of the plant can make even the government go away for a moment when you're having a puff.
Yeah.
I mean, it does relieve us besides the trauma, besides the mind patterns that they try to convince us with all their propaganda. Marijuana still breaks through all that. And, maybe that's why they're so scared, right? Because they know that this, their control over us to make us into such a slave kind of society. It's just not the Canada that I ever first saw when I was born. And so my intentions to stay in Victoria are 100%, and I look for support from my peers, and Ash Tree Rowan, she has the green ceiling. She's been doing really well there, though she does have to approach Lisa Phelps or help the mayor here very soon on that. Our company Dabcore is instrumental in getting information and education out, doing focus groups. And, we have stoner cats and dogs where, friends that have animals that are going through treatment by using cannabis, we promote to get them on that website so we can have testimonials. And we'll be using those testimonials as we move forward and teaching more and more people that have never heard about the endocannabinoid system in mammals. Also, it's people like, yourself, you've been doing so much, Alicia and Al, with your show, and you had to go through a lot, like you said, to try to get something. I mean, it's worth it in the end, because the more you stick with it, then you're able to help other people. And I get people from all over the world, asking me questions about what they should do. And of course, I'm not a doctor, and I never profess to be, but I know a whole lot about stuff that even I've been teaching my own doctor, and he's in his 70s. So, I sit down and turn his computer around, and I find him YouTube information, and I put it on his computer so that when I walk out and he's got time, he can look at that information later. And then he can know more on how to help me and my family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good, and that's important. It's very important that you have a good relationship with your doctor, because when you pose the question like, oh, can you prescribe me cannabis, and your doctor's like, oh, just like shuns you, then that's not a doctor.
That's hard.
That's not, like I've had that happen, but I guess they weren't doctors per se, but like asking for a cannabis prescription,
So some patients get threatened to be fired by their doctors for asking about cannabis.
I actually had that happen. So.
They did, eh?
Pretty close.
No, he changed completely.
Yeah.
And they do. Some will get really like scary and weird. Like I know this one. I had a friend with me, and the doctor had got into a debate with my friend, because my friend was like, "So you're telling me that you would prescribe her as much morphine as she wanted right now for her pain, because she's got legitimate Crohn's pain, but you won't prescribe her cannabis?" And the doctor was like, no. Yeah.
And those kind of opiates, they cause anti-inflammatory conditions. They cause inflammation in our bodies.
They do. I didn't even think of that before. Yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah, they destroy us completely. I mean, there's nobody that could live on that kind of stuff for a long time and have a good quality of life. Their liver and their kidneys are going to start, inflammation is age-related. It becomes, it's a compounding, an accumulation of anti-inflammatory conditions, one on top of the other, until the person is, pretty much bedridden, right? And here we have this plant that can be grown effectively and inexpensively, and that also has components, like you said, some of which profound medical value that we don't even know of. And due to it being illegal, to some totally undivine wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking about baseless. There you go. It almost renders one speechless at how hypocritical, if you want to call it. Well, it is. Like, the government purports that they create these laws to protect us. It's for safety. We need safety measures in place, aka the law. And it's just like that is so far from factual reality.
Well, you're right.
It scares me. Like.
Well, you're right. You're right.
That you're really going to stick it out there in Victoria and make him hear you. Because I think that that's probably what you were meant to do on this point in your path, because you're very articulate, you know your shit. And if anyone should have a business in Victoria to sell products, it is you. And so, yeah, I'd hope that you're able to change their minds. And I know that you will, because that's something that you do quite easily, I think. So, yeah. And so,
well, thanks for the support.
Perfect world, like you'd have like a
good luck
cannabis shop. Is that what you're kind of going for? Is that the ultimate goal?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, like I guess in terms of a shop, like you want to go like cannabis boutique, like is that what you're looking to open?
Well, like the mayor had actually been quoted as saying that she was looking for craft cannabis shops here. And so I come along with something incredibly crafty, because if now my shop will be called CB Dawn Wellness Shop, or Wellness Center, and that's significant because it's about the material in combination with moving the whole body towards health. And of course, I'll have speakers in and professionals, and I'll have people that have credibility in the field of helping people move towards total body health, and using cannabinoids, CBD in combination with teaching people how to use THC. I certainly understand it's a medication, and I certainly understand its potency. So I am all in favor of, like there's a very interesting site I just found the other day online. It's called PotBot. And it actually, you can enter your information, and it will tell you a little bit more about what kind of levels of CBD might work for you. So isn't that interesting? I mean, yeah. So things like that are really important. And when we have people have the help to move towards better health, cannabinoids are involved in your sleeping, your appetite, your reproductive behavior, everything that is positive and tuned with these things. And it's insane what's going on. People really get arrested for this. I mean, come on. Like, our doctors aren't healing us, and we all know why. They're not specialists in the way of actual healing that we had over 100 years back, when all these plants that we have that were used, cocaine plant was used for the Incas so that they could breathe in high altitudes. The poppy leaf was used for pain. Even arsenic was used in dealing with homeopathic remedies. So, we have all these materials, but we don't have to abuse them so that we're abused. We've all known that opiates are a mask. If I go into the hospital and I tell them I can't take morphine, they still try to give it to me. In fact, 2 doctors killed me because I told them I'm allergic to Demerol and morphine. I can't have those drugs, and they gave them to me anyway.
Oh, wow, really?
And I blue-coded. I went into anaphylactic shock, and I remember the whole thing. And so, we want to have some institutions that we can trust in, and we want to have respect for those institutions, but only when those things are deserved.
That's right. Correct. Okay, ladies.
I agree.
We're at the end of the...
Before we go, I just want to say a shout-out to Fred Bell. I hope he gets well. He works at Hemp Roots in Calgary, and he just went through an operation, so I just want to give him a hello and hope he's doing well.
Okay, super. I got a little bit of noise in the background here.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to get that in.
See you later. Okay, now is there... Oh, there they go. There we go. Now it's quiet. Silence.
I love that.
Right on.
Yeah, well, hey, we're in a store. I'm in a store, right? And most of the time they were here, I was muted, so that's why you haven't heard from me for the last 40 minutes. They said if I gave them some time, they'd come on for a few words, but.
Well, I was
Okay,
trying
so-
to have a puff in between them. Oh,
Yeah, I haven't had one for myself for a while. Okay, so you threw the shout out there to your friend in Calgary who's just had some surgery, right?
yeah. Fred
Yeah.
Dell, he works at Hemp Roots, and yeah, he's just wanting to probably get some healing in, and I just thought I'd say a shout out to him. Hope he gets well, Fred. Hope you get well.
Good. Just in case some of it was buried by the crowd that was in here. So I just wanted to make sure.
Oh,
it was heard.
okay.
That's
oh,
why.
That was nice.
All right,
Well, thank
Alicia,
you.
have you got some? Oh, actually, CB, have you got a website where people could find you?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry about that. It's dabcord.ca, and you can send an email to dabcord.ca, www.dabcord, and that's COR.ca.
Okay, good. All right,
And a lot of our
Alicia,
products are on there. So.
are they? And they
Yeah.
can send you a message from there and see everything that you got
Yes,
available.
they can.
Super.
Yeah,
Super.
it's under construction, but that part's working.
Yeah, construction. I can understand. Takes time to build a good website.
It does.
It does. Yes, it does. Alicia, have you got a shout out?
Well, I would like to thank John for coming on and sharing her story. That's brilliant. And I wish her great success and luck. And she'll have to come on again when she opens her shop and tell us all about her
Yes.
overcoming the city of Victoria and bashing those stereotypes and building her empire. So I can't wait for that. And another shout out to on the radio. I love it. So
yeah.
Thank you. And yeah.
Well, shout out to you too, Alicia. You're doing a lot of good too, and I'm always excited to hear your next journey and adventures.
Oh yes. We follow those on Facebook.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. There's so many. Hard to keep up.
All right. I will be back next week, next Wednesday, with my joint host Kim Cooper and her guest. I see that she's in the process of moving, so hopefully she's ready. And you can find. Yeah, we didn't have a broadcast last week because I was in the process of moving, and Kim was also doing a lot of packing. So we just got too busy. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm glad it worked out this week, Al and Alicia. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I've had a lot of fun.
We appreciate it. You can find Pace on Twitter at Pace Radio. You can find us on Facebook, as well as on Instagram under Pace Radio Show. You can find us online at pace-online.ca. And just so you know, you can send me a message and we can send you some free stuff, including a DVD of that 2010 Expo that you went to, Don, CB.
Nice.
Yeah, I got it sitting right here in my cupboard.
Nice. I'd love to see that.
And thank yous go to our friendly folks at BMA Hydroponics, BMAHydroponics.com. Also, our sponsor, CC Nexus. They're at ccnexus.global. Canadays for allowing us the space here in the front of their store. Our Rap, a lifestyle radio. And also, as we said, CB, a great big thank you to you for coming on the program and sharing your story with us.
Right on.
And as we mentioned,
Thank
we'll
you.
have to have you back. If you notice that we've gone over our time, and we can keep going. So, and thank you to you, Alicia. What was that?
I said we'll have to have her back once her business is open. So
That's right, for sure. Exactly.
Oh, how exciting! Yeah.
And as always,
thank you.
Thank you. A big thank you to our listeners too. Thank you, and good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Right on. Good night.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have had it.